Welcome to Journey Through the Gate, the Paranormal Portal podcast, as we delve into the many questions and wonders brought on by the supernatural experience. What's on the other side of the gate? Let's find out together.
Hi, everybody. Merry Christmas. Christmas Eve. It's Christmas Eve where you are, Ted? I know I always get mixed up from around, when is it Christmas Eve and Christmas in different time zones and stuff. Um, I can remember being a little kid and having that discussion with my mom about Santa Claus and time zones and all these different things. Yeah, did you ever have a conversation like that with a child, your child, grandchild? Did somebody have that conversation with you when you were a kid? You know, we were talking last night a little bit about the magic. I love the magic, and I tried to keep it as long as I could. And I don't, you know, that whole imagination thing, I always looked at it like that, just keeping that sparkle, the glitter in, belief and all that kind of thing. And I never looked at it as, my mom always told me it wasn't really a lie, it was more of a fib that meant well. So there you go. Santa Claus is just a fib that meant well. But I still believe, I don't know about you. And I think that we've kind of become that, and we put that magic into Christmas. If someone ever did that for you and put a little of that spirit, I don't care if it was a candy cane, you know, you just pass it along. And that's my favorite part about it. So welcome in, welcome in. Whatever time zone you're in, welcome. You're welcome here. You're right on time. So I see a beautiful little God baby in here, and Santa Claus. I'm pretty darn sure if he's ready. I don't want to make you wait any longer. Let's get you in here when you're ready, sweetie. Give me thumbs up, Mr. Steve Stockton. And guess who's bringing him in? Mr. Hope.
Hey, everybody.
Merry Christmas. Oh my God, look at this. It's like, what the hell is that? That's Cisco, baby.
Me and ho ho ho. Me and Holden, ho Holden. We see a bunch of people on the naughty list.
Hi, baby. How you doing? Merry Christmas.
Say hi to Cisco. He was jabbering before we came on camera
My God.
and pulling my beard. He's got it all.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Handfuls of it.
You see
Really does it, means it.
Now,
You know what I
he's
mean?
wearing his pizza outfit tonight.
Oh,
But if you want to see him in his Christmas finery and regalia, I'm going to do a short live stream tomorrow night, Christmas Eve, over on Missing Persons and Mysteries. And I'm going to read "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," and he'll be.
Oh,
over
that'll
there
be
with
awesome.
me. So,
Gosh, I hope I'm at home for that. What time is that going to be, Steve? Oh, look at you.
6 p.m. Eastern time.
How's he sleeping now, Steve?
Like a dream. He sleeps all night. He goes to bed about 10:30, 11 o'clock, and doesn't get up till 7 o'clock in the morning. Love it.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
a lot of new
Didn't take him
parents
long.
don't get that luxury. No, he's got that circadian rhythm locked in.
Isn't that nice?
I can say hi to Cisco. Say
Hi,
hi.
baby. I just can't
Say
get
hi.
over his eyes.
Say hi.
So pull Daddy's beard.
Yeah,
Look,
he does a lot of
Merry
that.
Cisco.
I see all that. What's going on? He likes the studio lights here. But his eyes you can't really see, but they're not brown like his mother's, and they're not green like mine, but they're a mix of both. They're kind of hazel and a little bit
I
brown, a
forget
little
how
bit
long
green.
it takes baby's eyes to get, kind of
Yeah,
really.
he'll be 4
Say-
months old on.
I didn't even see the chat putting up here. I'm looking at baby. Hold on one
He'll
second.
be 4 months old on January the 5th.
Comment says hi, Stephen Holden.
But he's
RP
very
and
alert,
Nicole.
very alert, very aware.
Look at that hair.
Yeah, he's got a lot of hair on him.
It's just a little button nose. It couldn't be any darn cuter. He's just perfect, Steve. Look at that. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, and you can't see it, but he's
Just
got
a
a
couple
whole
years
bunch
ago, would
of.
you ever thunk it?
No, never would have
I
thought
mean,
it.
that's what I'm saying, guys. Life
And
is a journey.
we found out we were pregnant New Year's Day, so it couldn't have been a better 2024.
Steve, little Susie. No, I thought he was probably doing something with the baby. Yep. Yep.
You say hi to
And it
everybody.
does have portals.
You say hi to everybody.
That's true. My mom said stuff like that too. Anytime I ever asked anything, it'd be magic. Look at that. That's magic right there. What does he
Yeah.
think of the tree? Can he see it? He gets
Yeah,
close.
we got some pictures of him under it and looking at it and things. So if you follow me on Facebook, we're going to be putting some of. We got a few up over there, but he's got a little elf outfit that Judy gave him. She's
Okay,
Richard G. If
paper
she's in the
dolls.
chat, she'll be sad she missed him. She likes to see him. She's one of his many aunts.
Marie says, Merry Christmas, Santa Daddy, and Holden the snowman. And he's fixing
And
to
he's
coming
got
in.
an elf
Steve
outfit. I
Holden,
think that's the one he's going to
Yuletide.
wear tomorrow night.
Bacon.
He's got
Bacon Christmas.
an elf outfit and some other Christmas outfits. I don't know what he'll have on
He's a
tomorrow night.
regular.
He
They're all
is. He's
regulars, Ted. They're all regulars.
it's like
You
trying
know,
to herd
you're not
cats
gonna, he's
when
not
you're
gonna be able to hold
trying
them
to
down.
or wrestle alligators or something.
You know,
See how
don't
I
get
can't
him
do that?
anything with wheels on it, Steve. I'm telling you right now, you don't need to put wheels on him. He's gonna be. Remember the big wheels and the sit and spin.
Yeah.
Sit and spin would be perfect for him.
Can you
You know,
say
you
hi
just
to
put it in the
people?
middle. You just put.
Hi,
I
everybody.
used to put stuffed animals in a big old circle all around them and sit them on the sit and spin, and they would just sit there, just go and go and go and go and go. It's like their own little merry-go-round, but it stays stationary. But they can, and the jumpers. You got to get them the jumper, the doorway jumper. You have one of those yet?
No, I don't have one.
Baby jumper. You need a baby jumper. No, this is a good kind of jumper, not our kind of jumper.
Yeah.
It's like on a spring. You know, you put them in and they jump up and down against their legs real strong.
Yeah.
You know, we need to find one of
Yeah, you
those.
see the tree a little bit better. There's an ornament on there that says Holden's First Christmas 2024. And
I
you
still
can
have my
just
sleigh.
barely see it right up there, but he's got his stocking hung on the
I
windowsill.
see.
It's got his name up there, and he's got a personalized reindeer over here on that chair, and he's got a whole pile of presents under the tree. A lot of baby Einstein stuff, and
This baby wants to move. You got to figure out ways to let him move, but he's still staying stationary. If that makes
yeah.
sense.
And
You know,
he does his tummy
Chat knows what I
time,
mean.
and
Don't you, Chat?
he can roll over
Hey,
from
Jason.
his tummy to
Welcome.
his back, but he can't get the other way quite yet. He gets over on his side a lot. And when he's on his back, he does this little kicky, dancy thing that all four things. Yeah, you tell him hello.
Yeah. Hello,
Hey,
baby.
hey,
Merry
hi there.
Christmas.
Hey, hi.
My goodness. My
You
goodness.
tell everybody hi.
I know you're going to be blessed. You're blessed already. Look at you.
Yeah, we're triple blessed.
Jason says Merry Christmas to you, my friend.
Merry Christmas,
And
everybody.
hello to you.
And Holden says, ho,
Good to
ho,
be back.
Holden says Merry Christmas.
Ho, ho, ho.
And yeah, if
How's
you
he
want to see him
doing?
in his Christmas, I think I have an elf outfit on him tomorrow night. He's got a little Santa hat and stuff too.
Did you tell me what time that is? I
6
got
p.m.
distracted by the
Eastern.
number.
6
6
p.m.
p.m.
Eastern on Missing Persons and Mysteries.
I might be home by then.
I'll put the link on the community tab.
I hope you see me in chat.
Yeah, I'll be over there for about
I
a
want to
half
hear
hour.
that.
I'm going to bring him on, and then I'm going to read "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" by Clement Seymour.
Fabulous. Do you offhand know how that whole story started? Are you going to talk about how the origin of the story too, or did you think about
I
getting?
can. I know the story of it, but
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I didn't want to do a spoiler alert if you were
Yeah.
going to say it, at the beginning and blow
yeah,
your
I'll
home.
probably talk about how it came about. But yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus, and he's sitting here. He brought me a baby Christmas. In
They
fact,
did.
Nicole was pregnant last Christmas, and we didn't even know it till January 1st. So,
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
the September babies are made in December. So there you go.
There you go. Yeah. I see you, Shogo. I see you.
He's talking up the storm all day today, but now he gets on here and he's going to be quiet. But
There's lots of
and he
lights.
was jabbering
Flashlights, moving
before you
things.
you put us on. But can you say hi?
Hey, look who
Hi.
it is.
Hi. You say hi.
Merry Christmas, Eric. Merry Christmas to you and yours, Raj. How y'all
Hey,
doing
Eric,
out there?
Merry
I
Christmas.
saw one of your slicking through YouTube, and I saw a paranormal group put up a really good video and a couple of shorts
It's your pinky.
of their investigation of the Night House. And I didn't know whether you'd seen that yet. You probably had, but they probably sent it to you. But it just popped up, and I was just so thrilled. And it looked like they had a good time. So, way to go, babe. Way to go. Merry Christmas to you. Absolutely.
You don't want that, do you?
This is Christmas present right here.
Show them how you play peekaboo.
Steve and I did
Peekaboo.
Jacob Marley, who I still say is the most important ghost in
Where's Holden?
Christmas Carol. Look at that hair. I'd have it a big old.
Yeah, you can't
It's like
really
like a baby lizard.
can't really see it, but he's got that stands straight up. He's got a lot of hair, and it
Yeah.
looks dark on camera, but it's kind of chestnut colored, like mine was. My hair had auburn highlights in it before it turned this color.
Gray.
I don't care if it turns gray; just don't want to turn
Mine's
loose.
got a
So
lot of different colors. That's for
still
sure.
got a head full of hair. I'm thankful for that.
Natural auburn, almost red though. That's for sure.
First
Goodbye.
time I grew my
I had
beard
a hard
out
time
when I was
explaining that
like
one.
17 or 18, it was red. It was a lot more red than the rest of my hair. But
Yep. My goodness. I just can't believe how big he's got. I can't get over it.
yeah, he's
I mean, my God.
trying to remember when we weighed him the other day. He was 12 pounds, 8.5 ounces, I
He's
think.
got to be in what, the first percentile? What do they call it? You know,
Yeah,
it's
he's
got to be
18th, I think, percentile.
really. Wow. Wow. That's amazing. It's amazing.
But he's
No,
healthy, that's for sure. And he's heavier than he looks too. He's stout. He's strong.
mhm.
He pulls. He got a little ball that he plays with, like a tetrahedron looking thing, and then he throws
Merry
that across
Christmas.
the room.
Merry Christmas, everybody. I love that.
Yeah.
Everybody's in here just throwing down the Yuletide and the bacon and the, you know, just love it. Just love it. Just
I'm
love
gonna
it.
go hand him back to Mom, and
All
then
right, sweetie.
I'll
You
join
say
you
hi
later.
to Nick, and I'm gonna do a recap of our last one on Monday real quick.
Tell him
You can
bye.
jump in
Tell
when
him
you want.
bye.
Bye,
Tell him
sweetie. Merry Christmas.
you see him tomorrow
Cisco
night
loves you, Granny.
on.
Cisco
You
loves
say Missing Persons Mysteries. That's too much for him to say it, but we'll see you tomorrow night for our Christmas Eve
you.
live
See you
stream.
tomorrow night.
I'll be right back.
Love you, baby. Oh, it's so sweet. You know, I've been kind of this afternoon, you know, just working and stuff. And I'm sorry, guys. I'm so tired, so I'm going to be like, you know, jumping all around. And I apologize for that. But I'm trying to make sure I could get it all in. You know, I didn't leave my boss hanging, so here I am. And then last night, let me explain. 100% my fault. Getting cut off of YouTube last night. They don't. That one ghost story, it's really strange. There's like a lot of ghostly encounters. They don't mind you play. I don't know why. It goes through and no problems come up. You know, you could put them up there and no problems come up. They don't copyright. It's weird. Some things get bought, some things don't. And I guess maybe some seasons got covered. I don't know. But anyway, I tried to show that ghost story about 2 years ago because I thought it was very important. I loved the way the eyewitness spoke about the experience, what they got from the experience, the ghost experience they had. So the ghost story that I'm talking about, if you weren't here last night, was the one where the gentleman lived in an apartment, had an apartment above. The lady, his neighbor, passed. Nobody knew it. She was up there, I don't know, some horrible amount of time alone. And nobody knew she had gone because she was alone in her life. And one night, he just sees this mist. He's got his front door open, screen door closed, and he hears something. I can't remember whether he heard something. You guys remember? For whatever reason, it got his attention that this mist was coming through the screen, and it just kind of glided about half middle height of the room, and just glided through the screen door and came through and came in front of him and it seemed like it tried to manifest. And what manifested was just a small patch of this person's essence, I guess. And it was right about where their middle would have been. And it was a patch of plaid, just like Steve's wearing, buffalo plaid, just like Steve's wearing. How apropos. And you remember this story, don't you? I know if you saw it, you would.
Yeah.
And this guy was just, what the heck's going on? And he's just mystified, like, what's happening? But he didn't freak out or anything like that. And then it just dissipated and left. I guess it left when it came, right? And I don't know how many days went by, whether it could have been as much as a week. I have no clue, because she was up there quite a while. And I guess somebody did a wellness check, whatever. The landlord opened the door, and there she was. So he sees her come out on the gurney, and she's got the plaid nightgown on. So he puts two and two together that this must have been her. Coming to see him was the only person that she really knew that was close by. But what he got from it, he was never really a big believer or anything like that. It was totally changed his, I don't want to say it changed his life, but it changed his outlook on the afterlife. And you know what I mean? It was so profound to him. And it did make a big kind of milestone in his life, in his journey. Okay. And at that point, he started thinking about it. He said, I guess we do go on, you know, like energy, you can't kill energy. Energy, it just changes. And then he explains about the pot of water boiling and it turns to steam, and eventually the water all be gone and turn to steam, but it's still there. It just changed, you know. And he was so at peace with it. And last night when I pulled that to show you guys, something kept pushing me to play that story. When I get something like that, I know it sounds strange, even for this channel, but I was pushed. Somebody needed to hear that. Somebody was hurting. I knew it because I recognized the feeling. I recognized it in my sensors, in my filter. Somebody needed to hear that. I don't know who. I don't know if it was at last night. It could be in the future. You know, I have no clue. I put this out there. The spirits do what they want with it. Plain and simple. That's all up to everybody else, you know. And I really felt like it was important. And I didn't know whether it was going to ease somebody's burden of loss or something along those lines, or their fear of something, but it was profound to them, and that's all I need to know. So I do not get these alerts that they keep saying. They tell Steve that after repeated warnings. I've never seen any, warnings since I've gotten hooked up to Rumble. And the reason is I'm streaming right now 3-4 different places. Okay. So everything changes, like as certain little things, like I can't take Rumble. I can't on StreamYard do something and send it to Rumble. You're only going to see in Rumble chat what's on Rumble. You're only going to see on the YouTube chat what's in YouTube. I have a combination of them all on my StreamYard. I'm sure yours is the same, right, Steve?
Yeah.
It's
got multiple locations that I can
right, and it's little things. So I think something changed when I hooked up to Rumble.
Twitch.
I don't see I don't see it anymore when they send warnings. The only way I can see it is if I'm looking at the right screen and I can see them flashing or doing whatever it is they're doing.
Yeah, that happened to me the other night. I was simulcasting it to 13 past midnight, and the stream was suspended because it said multiple violations, which I ignored, but I didn't even see them.
You didn't see them. And Steve didn't see them either. But and I wasn't looking at the right screen. I'm looking at 3 screens right now. Okay. So I just wanted to explain this because I don't want to blame it on them. It was my fault, but I did it willfully. And that's just being honest, because of the strength of the feeling that I had that somebody needed to hear that story. And I know that they were going to cut it off anyway. And I was going to cut it off, but I never saw it until it just went. So I apologize if you got cut off in the middle. You can still see the whole thing on Facebook, oddly enough, and on Rumble. So I highly recommend you get over to Rumble. And it's not because I'm trying to make you
go watch it.
I don't even know if it's available in all countries. Steve, is it?
I have no idea. I was recording my radio show last night, and after I got done, I went in, and Nicole was like, Cisco got booted off. The stream's gone. So.
Right. And as soon as I saw it, I knew if I stopped playing it, they would have put it back on. And I made a choice because at that moment, the first thing on my mind, I know it sounds nuts, guys, but this is just how my head works. First thing I thought is, have they seen it yet? Will they see it on, so, will they see it still on Rumble, or do I have to, because they won't be able to see it on YouTube. And I thought, yes, let it go. And I let it go. I have higher power. You know what I'm saying? It's not me. But, they kind of outrank anybody that would, scold me or take money away from me or anything else. If that helped one person, worth it. So I ask you to just understand that and understand why I let that happen and didn't try to save it, because there was nothing else I could do. I couldn't, play it there. But it's on there. It's on Rumble. If you didn't get to see it and you feel like the message is for you, please get over there on Rumble and watch just that one ghost story if that's all you do. Because there was just something about that had everything, Steve, I think. Those ghostly encounters are fantastic.
Yep.
And it's really odd. I was explaining it, like some of them you can play. I think some of them got bought, some of them didn't, or picked up or traded or whatever they do in that world. So you never know unless you run it through the machine. I didn't have time to run it through the filters yesterday to see that ghost story had to be told. So there it is. Because we do this for something different. Steve knows this about me. He thinks I'm nuts too, and it's okay. Because I am. But
we got the papers on you, Cisco.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm fine. Just give me a cocktail, put me on the front porch, keep your eye on me.
Don't let
I
you
will
wander
get
out.
loose. I will get loose. But I had a great day today. My boss, she got, well, I'm not real sure what happened there, but it seemed like we got a triple dose of poinsettias. And she was trying to figure out all these different, what we could do. Could we donate them to a nursing home? Could we, who needs so we're all coming up with ideas. And I was thinking to people on my block that was probably having a sadder Christmas, or maybe not feeling well, or, I mean, as much as I know, I'm not up in anybody's business out here, trust me. The only reason I know is people walk their dogs, and for some reason they think I want to know, so they stop off and tell me everything. They they machine gun something about a senior community, Well, you heard about Harry. He tipped his golf cart, and now he's got a hip replacement. I'm like, good Lord God, I'm just trying to get my groceries in the house, God bless your heart, but what button do I push to shut it off, It's like, I didn't even know I pushed the wrong, I'm just standing there minding my own business. Do we know these people, Pat? I'm telling you. And and it sounds unrealistic, but I swear to you, I'm trying to get as close as possible. I think in 30, 34 seconds, she told me half the business of half the block, what was happening to. And I wonder what makes a person do that.
It's something about our personality. People have always seen me as a father confessor figure. Uh, when I lived in Portland, I used public transit, the trains and the streetcars and stuff. And inevitably, no matter what train car I got on, somebody would sit down beside me. And by the time I got to my stop or they got to theirs, I'd heard their entire life story, plus whatever issues they were having right now, and the whole thing. I did offer advice when I could. And I think, well, I got to go. And I've had people beg me, don't get off the train yet. You're so easy to talk to. I just one of those people, and you are too.
It, see, and they're ending it with, I'm not jumping in your misery hole with you. It's not happening. I will kick, claw, scream, bite, put spells on you, shoot, you know. I mean, just, lightning bolts of energy, on you and yours. I'm just saying, you're not pulling me in your misery hole. And she ends this with, well, and she's laughing through it, but I think she's saying it because I think a lot of people put stuff out front so they're not afraid of it anymore. And I think this is on the sounding board sometimes for that, which is cool. But again, now I'm miserable because I know that 5 people on my block are having a really bad year. I didn't know it, but maybe I needed to know it. This was God's way or whatever to make me aware. I don't know. Either way, she says, well, you know what, Greg over there, I have no freaking clue who Greg is, but I'm not stopping her. Yeah, well, yeah, Greg. And she says, well, he says that he came here to die. And I said, well, honey, I came here to live. How about you? And I grabbed my groceries and got my ass in the house. I noped myself right on out of there. Because how many people know somebody in this chat where they just try to, you know what I mean? It's like swimming in the ocean. Something's got to hold your ankle, Steve. That's a very uncomfortable feeling. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. This is why we avoid people. I'm joking. So what do you know about ghost? Now we did not Bob Marley. That's a totally different.
The ghost of Bob Marley.
We did.
Reggae Christmas. Hey, there's an idea.
We're
Let's write a
already in
script for that.
We're already in we're off the rails already.
And Bob Marley said, hey, man, you got to do some cool runnings.
Yep. No woman, no cry. So, anyway, it was my fault last night with the YouTube. So again, get over there and Rumble. Hit the like for me. Thank you so much. And as always, we are demonetized on YouTube, so there is no super chats here.
YouTube's going to start charging you.
I got a new member last night, and I'll tell you what, Rumble is I guess they're cleaning house, setting up stuff for the new year, and trying to fix some things and add some more cool stuff. They're doing a really good job for a young company. They really are. I am familiar with a couple of people that actually started Rumble and why. Free speech and here we go. So they're still trying to knock a lot of the stuff out. Like about a month ago, they had too many ads in the middle of a replay. So if you didn't catch the thing live on Rumble, you got the replay, it was playing like 2 commercials every like 10 seconds. It was unnerving. So everybody complained. They ran it up to the top and they fixed it. Now it's reasonable. But you get that with YouTube. I think a lot of other channels too, right? You get, I know on Hulu it made me crazy because they play the same commercial over and over and over, and you couldn't stop it, you couldn't skip it, you couldn't get out of it. So that's why I hate doing stuff like that. But so that's that. I think. Did I want to say anything else? Oh, wait, yes. This is important. I got another member last night. Now, because I said that about Rumble, re-wallpapering or something, I'm not able to see who it was. So whoever joined, a thank you to all the members over there on Rumble. It means the world to me. And what we're going to try to do, Steve, is I haven't had time to do jewelry. I was going to make a couple of things and, make that to let people pick from that and, those kind of things. I got to make stuff that other people could have too, for the men. So some pendulums. You love my pendulum, Steve. Steve,
yeah.
Speak for the pendulum, and some other stuff. But I've got so much going on right now. Trying to, keep your head above the waves, right? I'm sure you all can relate. That I think what I'm going to start with this book, Steve. I'm going to order some of the books, and we're going to do a drawing once a month, and do a drawing out of the members, and that person gets an autographed book, and maybe we'll get them a pendulum or tree of life or something nice to sparkle along the way with a nice bookmark or something. Be cool. So that's how I think we're going to start it. So thank you very much for everybody that's done that, and thank you so much for the PayPals, Miss Lindsay and Derek out there. I appreciate it so much. Thank you. So there we go. House cleaning done. Last Monday, we were going to do those Christmas past. Steve has a Christmas story, which I absolutely love. I have a Christmas story that's fairly new, just in the past couple of years that happened to me. And I'm trying to think of other things that happened. I can think of lots of Christmas coincidences or timing things or bells ringing at the, talking about somebody, the bell, every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wing, but it's also a way to, there's that one video that you and I watched, I think last year, where they were having a New Year's celebration, a young girl and her mom, and they videotaped it, I guess to put on her TikTok or whatever. And when they were doing that and said, Happy New Year, the little snow globe, I think it was, wasn't it, Steve? Started to play.
Yeah.
And the snow globe, they had said that represented their father, because there was a dog in there that had a hat just like him and other stuff. So they would talk to this snow globe. And right when they said Happy New Year, it played, we wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. That's what it played. And they both got it. They accepted it right away. They went with the feeling that they had instantaneous, with their gut, you could say. And there's stuff like that happens all the time. And I don't know whether we remember more at Christmas, Steve, because it's a holiday and it's like a mile marker where, your memory goes back.
I think it sticks in your memory more than other times. Just because it's such a happy time.
Yeah, happy time. Or the opposite. It could be a very sad,
happy time, yeah.
Right. I mean,
an emotional time, let's say that.
Mm-hmm. And I think there is something about that. I mean, I can remember when I was in the service. I mean, I was never in war or anything, because Lord, those stories, spending Christmas in the trenches or something like that. Can you imagine? But I've spent it in cold on guard duty and being excited that they were giving us turkey and dressing and stuff at the, whatever it was, whether we're eating it out of the barrels, on tactical, camping out, whatever was going on, or if they had it at the mess hall, every little thing means something, and everybody is always nostalgic and tells stories like, God, I miss my mama's pork chops, I miss this, I miss that. So I think there's a lot of that during holidays. I mean, a lot of people do things to get through it, like the empty chair at the table. And some people don't like that. Some people think, oh, that's morbid. I think that we in the paranormal take that kind of stuff totally different, don't we, Steve?
I think so, yeah.
I'm a little more upfront with it, very much like that guy was, boiling water, the steam. And, I mean, I've heard it before, but just the way he said it and the way he came through, he almost not, I don't want to say a hardcore skeptic, but a non-believer, didn't really think about it and didn't really have a connection with this woman, hadn't really talked to her, had a nod at the mailbox, something along that. but that's all she had, you know? And that makes me think about ghosts too. We were talking about how they're hanging back, and what little thing are they hanging on to? Like when we talked about Marley's ghost, each link forged in life, right? But I think you could get rid of those links too. Not so much that the good outweighs the bad, but maybe when you start to lean the other way and pay attention to the people around you, and try to change a little bit. I think they do. I think it comes off, a little at a time. You start releasing those tethers. You know what I mean? I think that's very interesting. Now, that's Marley. He's the first ghost that comes in A Christmas Carol. The second ghost that comes in is a ghost of Christmas past. And I don't know, some people think that's the scariest ghost because they don't like looking back. Where did I mess up? Where did it go wrong? Or and I think at the time of Scrooge, he wasn't thinking anything about that. So he's getting drugged back. And I've got some cards that talks a little bit about the ghost of Christmas past. And I think it's interesting tonight to kind of focus a little bit on that one. It's not that I'm kind of leaving out the ghost of Christmas present. In the middle, we talked a little bit about him on the last show, and how, the ghost of plenty, he's a very contradicting ghost too, because he's very happy, and then the next minute he can be very scary too. And like he takes Scrooge to see Tiny Tim and what goes on in the house at the time. And they're so poor. How can they be so happy? Well, it's called love, togetherness, and this and that. So he's also a very important ghost. The ghost of Christmas past, I think, is important for us because one of the features of this ghost is the light. And he takes off the hat. I never quite understood that. You have to almost read this a bunch of times to see a lot of different portrayals of it, because you miss things. This Dickens novel is it's like his stranglehold. You know what I mean? It's such a work of art. It's an epic novella. It really is. But he dug into his belief so much that he was able to pull up the ghost of Christmas past would be both old and young. That's why it fluctuates. When it thinks back of his youth, it looks young. And when you think, thinks more old as he was older, this thing changes. It's neither him, or it's almost like a unisex kind of thing too. It's not a male or a female or anything. It's just this light, and it's a reflection of his past. And the whole thing is bathed in light. And this is why it has this cap on. When he takes the cap off and the light is exposed, he starts to see. And it's just an amazing thing. And I think that's important for light workers. I mean, wouldn't you think, Steve? To think about that.
I think so.
They could not put his light out. No matter how he tried, Scrooge could not put this spirit's light out. And I think that's kind of something important to think about. So I've got some cards. You want to do back and forth on some reading, and then maybe we can do your Christmas story?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Want to do that? All right. Let me see.
I just wanted to say hi to some people in the chat.
Oh,
And I
please
wanted
do.
to correct Jason Finch. I'm not Holden's grandfather. I'm Holden's father.
That's his dad. That's a pappy.
Yeah. My wife, Nicole, she's a little bit younger than I am, 22 years. In fact, she was born when I was in college. But just because there's snow on the roof doesn't mean there's not a fire in the furnace. So I may look like Grandpa, but I'm all Dad.
Isn't that something? He's a new pappy. All right. Let me see if I can get this. There it is.
That's okay, Jason. Easy mistake to make. Because like I said, I'm 61 and Nicole is 39. So there you go.
There you go. All right, it's pulling up here. So
I'm
what do you
blessed.
think, Steve? What do you think? I'd like to hear your thoughts on Ghost of Christmas Past. Some people think that that's the scariest one, and I don't know if my theory is correct on why would they think that's the scariest one, because they don't
To
want
me,
to.
the scariest one was always the ghost of the future, Christmas future,
That's
because
what I
then you saw what was going to happen if you didn't
It's okay
fix
then.
some stuff. That's okay, Jason. I just wanted to point that out.
It's something else. But
One time I was in the grocery store
it's
with
not like it's the
Nicole,
first time it's happened. It's going to
and
happen
the
again.
lady at the deli counter said, "That little blonde girl, is that your granddaughter?" And I'm like, "Granddaughter, that's my wife." And she was like,
Yeah.
later I was kidding her about the
You
next
know,
time we were
those
in
are
there. She
good
said,
times
"I
too.
could have dug a hole and crawled in it."
Yeah, I do too, RP. I
But
mean, and each one emphasizes, I'm sorry, Steve, I didn't mean to jump
that's
on, but
okay.
that's so important.
I'm yammering
The
here. Hey,
different,
slow boy.
the different versions are important. And I think it's because for the reasons that we just said, because you miss those things. And I love that we were doing this about the analysis of these ghosts. I was trying to come up with something so we don't get YouTube. I don't get YouTube cut off tonight, so I can't show you a bunch of things because I didn't have time. I worked all day. I didn't have time to run it through the grinder to see if it was okay. But I think it's important because I'm looking at it again. I'm seeing it through different eyes again too. Even though I've watched this, I've read it. I've got multiple different versions of it. I've watched, I've listened to plays and radio play, just high school versions, but you miss. There's still so much to unpack in the story, and the part about the light really got to me, and I thought, man, that's something that all light workers now need to hear because these past couple of years, last years, have been actually decade probably has been so hard on light workers, and I think they're really feeling the pressure, especially around the holidays, because you got the very happy, they're faking it till they make it. You've got the extreme, and then you've got the very sad, and we feel all of that at the same time. And it's just, I think I said last night, it's like being in a pinball machine.
Or
You
being an
could,
empath, yeah.
oh man, Steve, isn't it? So hearing this from Dickens, who again amazingly got it so right. To come back and have all of these decades, Steve and I are looking into the subject, and you guys too. The guy understood this at a depth that's absolutely, it's God's, I'm Godsmacked when I look at it because he got it, and so Scrooge wrestles with this ghost because he doesn't want to see anymore and he tries to put the light out. And I don't know how many times you have seen that played out. And right now I'm thinking of the cartoon, and I can also see him doing it. I think the Jim Carrey one, I forget, it was like the 90s. Didn't he come out with that in the 90s? It was all CGI and all that kind of stuff with Jim Carrey playing Scrooge. It was,
Yeah,
I
I've
thought it was,
never seen it, but that sounds about the right
yeah.
time.
And he's wrestling, he's got the cap, and he's trying to put the light out. And I think so many of us have had that kind of happen to us. Like when, say, you're at work and everybody's miserable and everybody's got their gig going, they're whatever they're going through, they're trying to get it on you, whether they're just miserable and they want you to join them or they're just bitchy or whatever it may be, just miserable people. And you can't leave for whatever reason. You've got to be at the doctor's office. You've got to be in the traffic. You have to be where you're working or in your family or at the table, whatever it may be. And it's almost like that version of Scrooge taking that cap and trying to put your light out. Well, don't you let him. Don't you let him. If you got to take a minute and regroup, like I say all the time, you take 2, take 7 minutes. I used to. It's one place I worked. I had this meditation. It was a 7. I've sent it to you, Steve. It works. It's like a fast body cleanse, soul cleanse. And I used to go in the bathroom and lock the door where I worked and just put this meditation on. I was like, please don't let me hurt anybody. Please don't let me hurt anybody. Because these people were just absolutely insane. But we all go through that. And that's almost like Scrooge trying to take that cap to put that light out. It's just, it's amazing to me how good he was at writing the story. Has anybody seen, since I mentioned it, The Man Who Invented Christmas? If you haven't seen it, you have to watch this for Christmas.
I got a copy of it, but I haven't watched it yet. But that
Oh,
looks really, really good.
please watch it. It's amazing. And I was absolutely floored when I watched it after Cabin 22 because similar happened to me. Not that vivid, but I'll tell you something. I met Ezra and I met Ski and I met Dave. Some of those people just popped out and it was like they were here. And in The Man Who Invented Christmas, that's how he saw it too, envisioned it. And Dickens explaining it, that's where they got it from, because he almost saw the characters. Tell that real quick, Steve. I think it's so interesting about the guy. Who was it? The Shadow Nose guy, the author. I can never remember.
Yeah, Walter Gibson.
There you go. Tell that real quick. What happened with
Yeah,
him?
he lived in the village in New York, and he wrote The Shadow, the dime novels, and the scripts for the radio show. It's a very popular radio show back in the day. I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of stories that he wrote for that. And in fact, he had like half a dozen typewriters, manual typewriters, and he would jump from one to the other just that way, he avoided writer's block. And I took a cue from that. I work on several different things, but
Yep.
with a computer, I can do it all in the same place. But he had them like lined up. Well, he put literally blood, sweat, and tears into that character to the point that it started showing up in the apartment where he lived. He had a dinner party one night, excuse me, and there was a balcony up above the dining area. And people are like, "Oh, I see you hired somebody to dress up as the shadow." And he said, no. And he called it a mental imprint. He said, that's a mental imprint. All the hours and hours and hours that I've poured myself into creating that character, he actually started showing up, slouch hat, the scarf, the coat, and everything, cloak. And to this day, that apartment is still haunted. I think Dave Schrader covered it. There's been other instances there. But it just goes to show you that you can create something like that out of nothing. Like, what was there was a psychic or a psychical research group back in the 60s or 70s. I think Messages
Philip
from
experiment.
Michael, where they
The Philip
created a ghost and fed energy into it, and then things started manifesting. But it was their own
Philip
creation,
experiment.
supposedly.
That's exactly what it was. And you know who else? That was really something, But we, you and I use that one as an example too, as far as when we're talking about either tulpas or talking about the energy that people can build, like saying the Lizzie Borden house, where people keep going and talking about it, where we know she's gone and crossed, and it's
Yeah.
just all this manifestation of all this energy and the stuff that happened in her. It almost becomes a being, its own thing. It's crazy, but it happens. It happens. So let's see what we got here, Steve, and find out a little bit about the remaining ghosts in Christmas Carol. You want to take the first one?
Okay. I was on the wrong screen. I was looking at the YouTube and didn't see that you'd put it up there yet. I was
I'm
looking at the
sorry,
chat.
hon. Take
I
your
can
time.
see the chat better over on the YouTube than I can in the StreamYard. The Ghost of Christmas Past in A Christmas Carol. Young and old, commanding, streaming with light. The Ghost of Christmas Past is the first spirit to visit Scrooge after the Ghost of Marley. It arrives as the clock chimes one. It is an ethereal spirit that appears to be both old and young at the same time, with light, excuse me, with light streaming from the top of its head.
Hang on one second. Throwing something down on Rumble. Yes, that's it. The light streaming from the top. Now, do you remember that, Steve?
I remember reading
How
the
long has it been
book.
since
Yeah,
you've seen Christmas Carol?
it's been a while since I've read it, but I took a whole course on it in college. But that's been
Did you really?
in the
Oh,
80s.
how
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
That would be interesting. I'd love to do that. I'd love to do that.
yeah. It was fascinating the
This
way
one might be a little
to
small.
to
Yeah,
see
I
it
think it was.
broken down,
Yeah.
and the what you can read between the lines and things on it.
I love that, and having those discussions. I like book of the month kind of club kind of.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course, those things don't always. It's not always true, but it's a good idea of maybe what they were thinking about.
Right.
We were studying James G one time, and I think it's Knoxville 1910 or Death in the Family or something like that. And the professor, he was from Ole Miss, he didn't know. But there's a part in the book where he's standing on the viaduct overlooking the railroad yard on Asylum Avenue. And the professor said that naming that Asylum Avenue represents the inner turmoil and the craziness that was going on in his head at that time. And I'm like, or maybe he's because that's actually Asylum Avenue. It was a place there in Knoxville later, Western Avenue, and it led into the old Eastern State Mental Asylum. That was the name of it back then, Asylum Avenue.
Yep.
And actually, I stood on that viaduct and looked out over the rail yard. They've got a plaque there about him now. But just because you can read things into it doesn't necessarily mean that that's what the writer had in mind.
That's such a good point. That's such a good point. And the fact that Dickens isn't here yeah, that's what I was thinking. Because here's the thing, Dickens would, yeah, that's exactly.
He might have said, nah, that's not what I meant at all. Because again, I
Right.
used to put on one-person art shows. I'd rent a gallery in Oak Ridge, and I'd put stuff in there, and then I'd mingle in with the crowd. They didn't know that I was the artist,
Mhm.
and I'd listen to people, and I'd do crazy stuff. I was, in my punk rock era, and I remember one time I had a piece of 2x4 with a nail in it, and that was one of my art exhibits. And there was this guy there with a date, and he was pontificating like, "Oh, this represent man's inhumanity to man, and how the board is the world, and the nail is how the man stands alone." And he had this whole subtext, and I wanted to tell him, "Dude, it's a board with a nail in it. It doesn't mean a damn thing."
Doesn't mean a damn thing.
But it was funny to listen
Okay,
to people.
I got one too. I love stuff like this because I love that you brought this up because you can do that. You could go on and on and on, and they make it up as a. But here's the thing: it fits in Dickens. I don't know how much of he meant about that, but look, he wrote it in there. So a lot of the stuff that we can take for granted that that's what he meant. It really is very deep. But I can see exactly what Steve means, and I think I've always felt that way. I've always been in the art world. I mean, that's all I took in school. This is where I knew I was good. I was going to be a graphic artist. Is what I set out to be. So I took a lot of it, and to be around these people when they're talking about stuff like that, it just blows your mind. Like you see these like a Picasso. We ought to do an episode on that because that was a whole CIA thing right there.
Yeah, it was psyop.
It was a psyop for sure. And but keep in mind, the Campbell's Soup label is a psyop. So don't let them tell you every time you hear psyop is something bad, because it's also, it's also other things. It's anything that makes you do something or makes you want to do something or want to have something that you didn't know until you saw that thing or heard that thing. See what I'm saying? So advertising, marketing, all of that you can throw into being a psychological operation. Because
Oreos, the Campbell's Soup label. It's all the way the store is laid out, and
it's a
where
whole
things
different
are
way.
at eye level.
Yep.
It's
The
all
toys in the
in
box.
Las Vegas. The carpet in the casinos is meant to guide you to certain areas and stuff.
Right. So don't
It's
let
all
them do the psyop
neurolinguistic
like we did
programming and
with
psyops.
conspiracy theory, because conspiracy theories are really only, predictions that take 6 months to come true in most cases. So, all right. So here's a story. Beat around all these art people. So I'm working at AC Moore, and I'm over it with these artists. They're bringing in all these. Oh yeah, I went here, and I'm looking at it. It's like, oh, this $8,000 or whatever it was. I'm thinking, God. But then again, keep in mind, I do the same thing with purses and all this other outlandish, crazy stuff that people waste money on. Yeah, I hate spending money so much it makes me nauseous when other people spend their money. Does that make sense? It just makes me, like I could feed so many people with that. You know how many squirrels I could feed with that? That kind of thing. So anyway, I'm sitting there and I'm waiting to get something done and ask a question of this custom framer that's dealing with these artists. And they've got this huge picture. And I mean, it's one of those that what do they used to call those? A sofa. You put in the back of the sofa, it's so big, with a big ornate frame. Yeah. And all this picture it's almost a line drawing of these things too. So it's just a little bit, it's almost Japanese in its simplicity. Let's put it that way. It's very, very light. Okay, it's not heavy at all. And it's a circle of images that tell a story. And it's the craziest thing you've ever seen. At the top, there's this lady, and she's got a small chicken in her hand. That's all you see. And then you see the next one, the chicken is at her feet, and she's feeding other chickens. And she looks happy. And then the next one is this guy and her. All you see is the faces. And then the next thing, she's getting married to the guy, and then you're back to a chicken by himself. and you're not really sure kind of where it starts. And they're talking about how deep this is, and and the lady, and she was alone, and then the guy came along, and I'm telling you, there was something in her face that changed after the guy, that she didn't look as happy as she was with the chicken. That's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm saying. And they're just jabbering on, jabbering on. And I'm talking to the customer that's with me, and there's a lot going on. And finally, I just turn around and I'm like, all right, that's it. It's about the chicken. It's all about the chicken. How can you guys not see it's not about the chicken? You're way off base here. I know this artist, and I just went on this long tangent of this complete, total bullshit. And they were just, oh, yeah. Oh my God, they're buying this. But that's what Steve says is true with the nail on the board. I can hear it. And anytime you go to an art gallery or an opening or something, and I used to serve bartend and stuff at those things, the absolute, just, I would imagine that Hollywood after parties and things like that are a lot like that too, because you have this narcissistic, everybody's afraid to be wrong. And I think everybody's afraid to be in the room and be the guy that says, that's shite. That's complete shit. My cat could do better after he ran through, across the dinner table and landed on that was better, or whatever it may be. So, so many things are a psyop, and so many things are meant to lead you astray. But I'm telling you right now, what Steve says is true. And if you're looking at a picture, you're looking at a piece of art, and it looks like shit, probably is. And don't be afraid to stand up and go, you know what? It's a hamburger made out of.
You have somebody like Mark Kostabi who just signs the canvas, and he hires artists at minimum wage to paint the pictures, and then he sells them for 5 and 6 figures. Or you got somebody like Andy Warhol, who was a pop art genius, but he was just painting every day the soup can, Elvis, Marilyn,
The 4 Marilyns, different colors.
Brillo boxes,
Yeah.
And he said art is what you can get away with, and that's true for any kind of art, writing, music, or fine arts.
It's all a dang illusion. It really
But
is.
then there's the other side of that. I had a professor. I have a degree in art, and we used to argue about Jackson Pollock. There was times we'd take up the whole class, just me and him going forth about Pollock. I thought Pollock was a hack. Jack the Dripper, they called him. He just came in.
Jack the Dripper.
But instead, I found out a few years ago, I watched a documentary, an old black and white, I think Pathé or one of those foreign reels that they used to send around with the films. And it showed Pollock in the act of creation. He had the canvas spread out on his the floor of his looked like a big garage, his workshop. And he had these glass syringes, like a bulb syringe, and he's doing stuff up here in the air. And then just what left over, fell on the canvas. Now, sometimes he would just splat stuff on there, but he was up here, he was with paint in the air, writing things and drawing symbols and sigils and things. And that's when it dawned on me, art is the residue of passion. The passion was up here, what he was doing, and the art, the residue, was what fell on the canvas. And that's when it finally clicked in my head. And I don't think that professor's alive anymore, but I owe him an apology.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
So sometimes you're never too old to learn.
When you find out that he was actually sought after and manipulated to become that person, they grabbed a terrible alcoholic, whatever, gave him everything. It's a long story, but it turns out that, psyop. And the whole
why? I mean, that newsreel was made like back in the 50s. Why did he not show us that in college in the 80s? Because it was around. That would have turned everything around.
I don't know.
Well.
But the whole reason it started was because America.
I could talk art all night,
so
and will if you don't shut me up.
They were so scared, just like the space race. Like, imagine what it was like with us America going against. Well, Russia's starting to get there, and everybody else is getting close. We got to hurry up.
Sputnik scared the pants off everybody.
Exactly. Well, in the art world, what scared the pants off of everybody was Europe.
Yeah.
Because America was brand new, we didn't have any artists. So they had to come up with a whole new section of art, this impressionist art. and they had to find a boy or somebody to do it, that, a poster boy for it, and that was Pollock. So that was that whole thing. That's why I got promoted. Very much like when they take an artist and they put the artist forward. Their music gets played. That's the one that they promote. That's the one you see on all the stuff and the cereal boxes and the
Yeah.
toys and the sneakers and stuff like that. Very similar. And so it's a very interesting story to call it. But yeah, they totally messed them up too. I don't think there's ever been somebody like that was set up, used to make it, a whole setup like that and came out good. Look at Oswald. Look at, how many different ones. So crazy. I'm going to get this one because I think the print's too small and I don't want to mess you up on different screens. All right, so we're still on Ghost of Christmas Past. I don't have many of these, but just a couple. Uh, it it was a strange figure like a child, yet not so like a child as like an old man, viewed through some supernatural medium, which gave him the appearance of having receded from view and being diminished to a child's proportions. Its hair, which hung about its neck and down its back, was white, as if with age, and yet the face had not a wrinkle on it, and the tenderest bloom on the skin. The arms were very long and muscular, the hands the same, as if its hold were of uncommon strength. Its legs and feet, most delicately formed, were like those upper members bare. But the strangest thing about it was that from the crown of its head there sprung a bright, clear jet of light, by which all this was visible, and which was doubtless the occasion of its using, in its duller moments, a great extinguisher for a cat, which it now held under its arm. Charles Dickens. So he's talking about how this ghost, as I said earlier, went younger when they were talking about his past, your past. And oddly enough, I think one of the best um, renditions of that is that one where Jim Carrey plays Scrooge. And I can't remember. I think it's just a Christmas Carol. I can't remember. I think Disney maybe put it out or Pixar, one of the two. But they did a great job. And I didn't quite get it at first because it was messing me up because this ghost kept changing, but it was always Jim Carrey's face and different. So it's Jim Carrey's face is changing and all this light. So it was kind of really freaky. And in some of the older ones, like I believe the George C. Scott one, it's played by a woman with very blonde hair, just back off her face. And in the cartoons, of course, they can make it a little bit more like Dickens saw it. So it's very interesting how all these different Ghosts of Christmas Past are visualized through the different directors and screenwriters and characters that play them. And, like I said, some of them are really going to, if you watch it, you're going to, oh my gosh, it's like being a light worker. It just blew me away. See what we got next. All right, so there it is. It is the way that Dickens saw it, because this is one of the originals that he had in his book. So this is when the Ghost of Christmas Past takes Scrooge back to his boyhood. He went to his father had sent him away, I believe, Steve. Kind of didn't want him really. His older sister was the one that, or the younger, it was the younger sister that he was very close to, and yeah, she was younger, and he's away in school and left alone for Christmas. So here's where it starts, where Christmas is just a memory of pain for him. And I think that's why he takes him back. Here you are alone. Well, and Scrooge is trying to say, but I had my books. I had Treasure Island, and I had Captain Kidd, and I had all these different stories he read. So he escaped through reading. And I think, this is just my thought. Dickens really felt an awful lot about being a writer and author. And I think that's one of the reasons he might have put that in there, that strength of, not only reading can help you escape, but writing can help you escape. Steve, what do you think about
Absolutely.
that?
Well, yeah, because you're creating worlds and populating with people, and sometimes characters do take on a life of their own in fiction. I've written stories where people started doing things that I never had intended them to do, but it just seemed like a natural progression. You're creating an alternate dimension, alternate world there. But
Mm,
it's that's part of the pleasure of writing. Uh,
absolutely.
as
I know.
Stephen King once said, sometimes you have to kill your darlings.
You know, I mean, when I was writing Cabin 22, I think everybody thought I was going to kill Rage. I think
Hmm.
everybody thought I was going to kill the dog or the kid. And
Yeah.
I wrestled with that, Steve, you know, because I'd call you, hey, Bri, how you doing, baby? Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah to you,
The
sweetie.
one train. That's the Broadway and Seventh Avenue local, I think. Bowden, isn't that the one that runs from Van Cortlandt Park to
Is that a comment? Are you
242nd Street, Riverdale, Bronx, and the South Ferry in Lower Manhattan, if I remember correctly. I spent a little bit of time in New York back in the day. Yeah, he said you could see his early artwork on the one train. Is a
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. That's funny. You know, I've seen some of that stuff. You could say it's art, that's for sure. I mean, that's a thing. There's what is art? You know, it's got to be pleasing to somebody. Somebody's got to see something in it, you know. And I love that there's all different kinds, but you'll never convince me that a cheeseburger made out of dog crap is art. You know, you're making a statement for sure, but what
Yeah.
is it? You know,
And
and what's
again, I point back to Warhol. Art's what you can get away with.
yeah, yeah.
That's my favorite definition.
Yep. And then you got to convince, people that, I mean, it's like you're talking about Pollock with the dropping the paint on it. And all I can think about is Hunter Biden blowing his damn ink stain across the canvas, selling this stuff for $5 million pop. Honey, that's not art. That's called money laundering.
Yeah,
just in case you didn't know. You want to do this one, honey?
sure. The spirit serves as a powerful guide for Ebenezer Scrooge, forcing him to confront his past and begin his journey towards redemption. The cap worn by the ghost is a metaphor for ignorance, which the spirit can remove to shed light on forgotten or suppressed memories. And that is a wonderful metaphor.
Isn't it? Isn't it? I love it. I
Hey,
love
D
it.
Rock.
And you can miss all this just, watching all the stuff go around. Sometimes you got to peel all that back and get back to the quiet of just the words and the way the author put them down to paper. Each word is important. And I know that I've struggled with, word in a sentence. No, that's not quite right, and you think about it, don't you, Steve? I
Yeah,
mean, really put a lot of thought into it. I know some people just blurt it out and they can do it no problem. But in some cases, if something means a lot to you and you're trying to express that, sometimes it's painful, especially if you're recalling past memories to express to somebody or put in writing. And you have to relive that. So I understand why sometimes when people are a little bit, not in the mood, they'll shorten up a story and then, to tell it because they're not as strong this time to go back to those emotional things. And they say it a little bit more stoic. And then somebody will come back and go, oh, she's lying because I heard her say the story here, or I heard him tell the story here, and it changed over time. And I think that's one thing you hear a lot in true crime or the paranormal. Anytime somebody's trying to prove a Bigfoot sighting or something like that, they'll go back and say, 30 years, the story never changed. And you'll see somebody jump in the comments and say, no, one time he said it was a red shirt, and then he said it was a blue shirt. Or
yeah,
he said didn't have a shirt. Or he didn't mention the shirt this time, so he must be lying. Listen, guys, think human beings. And if you were telling a story for 30, 40 years, now somebody adds a bunch of clowns and flying monkeys and balloons and crap like that. Yeah, okay. But if they just shorten it up and just tell it for time, that doesn't mean they were lying the first time they told it. They just had more time or better emotional stability to be able to deep dive into that and
yeah.
express it. It's hard to tell these stories sometimes, especially if they're close to you, you know. Um, I'll do this one. I think
Okay.
I'm trying to see if we didn't do this one. Okay. It takes Scrooge to scenes from his own past, showing him visions of his childhood, of his young adulthood, and of happier times. The final scene he presents is one that Scrooge cannot bear to witness, his lost love, Belle, with her family. With her family now. Remember, she gets married, she has kids, and that's the thing that the ghost whispers in his ear the whole time. You could have had that. They could have been you. They could have been your children. They could have been, And that's when he also reminds him of his, of Fred, his sister's son, and how he was spurned away and thrown out, and You know, that's when Scrooge says everybody that goes by with Merry Christmas on his lips should be stabbed in the heart with a sprig of holly or something boiled in his own pudding, some kind of thing like that, you know. But anyway, I'm paraphrasing, by the way. Anyway, he that's when he reminds him of all this. Now, this part right here, it kind of hit me a lot, especially when I was writing this, when I was thinking about doing this episode, and going back and looking for clips for you guys. It was hitting me that this is very similar. Think about it, that we've heard about when you cross over and you get to the other side, your evaluation of your life. So that so many people are afraid of the things are going to be judged. No, I believe personally, my theory is you judge yourself and you get shown the things, not only the bad things you did, but the good things you did. And I think the things that hurt the most, from what I've heard from people like Daniel Brinkley and people that have been dead a few times and come back, or dead still and come back, that those are the things that hurt the most. When you could have done something to help somebody, or you could have done something to change somebody, but you chose not to for whatever reason, or something along those lines. That those are the biggest regrets on the other side. But they don't pound them into it. You think to yourself, man, I could have done that better. Or I should have took the time to do that. Or I should have listened to that lady's story. Or I should have gave her that moment. And then I look back to the beginning of our conversation tonight. I'm talking about a lady that came to me, and I'm thinking those things. Like, maybe she just needs to tell this to somebody. But they're machine gunning all this sad stuff at you. And and I think that's what light workers and people feel like sometimes, that people just come and machine gun all this stuff at you. And sometimes you can't just deflect them, sometimes you absorb them. And we have to learn how to deal with that and then get rid of it, that it's not ours, and get in and put it back out to the universe, or ground. And that's why it's so important for grounding and meditation. You got to, if you have to clean your crystals and all that kind of stuff, don't you think you need one too? So do that thing where you think about the light, take a shower, and that light goes all through your body. I had to do it, I don't know, 30, 40 times today. I'm just saying, no, I'm joking. But don't forget to do that. We can get caught up in the holidays and stuff, and we forget to take time for us to put our feet up and eat the damn good cookie, not always the broken cookie, and give the good cookies to everybody else. You deserve the good cookie too. Right, Steve?
Absolutely.
There you go. All right. Here's the second part. Scrooge turns on the ghost and demands to be shown no more. He attempts to extinguish the ghost's light with his own cap. Okay, so he takes his hat off to see if it'll work, wrestling it to the ground. However, the light that shines from the ghost cannot be put out. Be the ghost. Be like the ghost. Don't let them put your light out. Right, Steve?
Right.
Absolutely. And there he is. So this is the one where Jim Carrey plays the all the parts, which is kind of crazy. It's like one of those Eddie Murphy movies where he plays all the different parts. But in this case, it's all CGI. And again, the first time, I have to be fair, the first time I watched this part kind of creeped me out, because I'm like, why did they make him like a candle? To me, it was, does he look like a candle?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, wow, this is a crazy vision of this character. But then I watched it again, and I'm like, man, it's clever. And I love the fact that they're really putting him out like this. This one's got like the most light. He's shining the light on the choices and events that brought Scrooge to his miserable bah humbug self. And again, a lot of times your spirit guides and your loved ones and people in your lifetime that are alive and just pop in, that crazy person at work that makes you nuts and makes you really practice on your patience and your tolerance and your temper So this is very much similar, because they come through to strengthen you, to strengthen your armor, to strengthen your wisdom, and also because you're strong enough to help that person get to the next step. They may not know it, you don't know it. This is very intentional. This is what your spirit guides do too. And I think that's what the ascended beings, when you get to the other side, who's ever helping you, Steve, I think that's what they do. They just shine the light and let you decide, And of course, the ghosts are whispering things in your ear while they're going through this. Like, it could have been your kids, it could have been your life, it could have been your wife, your home, that kind of thing. But because sometimes we don't get it on our own, and I think we get that through life too, those little nudges, But if you haven't seen this version, give that one a chance. And again, I think it's just a Christmas Carol, or I don't know how they switched up the name to get away with it, but I think it's 90, 97 maybe, somewhere in the 90s. This one's real small. Can you see it? If you can see it, read away. If you can't, I'll do it, sweetie.
Okay. The ghost forces Scrooge to observe scenes from his childhood and young adulthood, revealing the events that shaped his current miserly nature. The spirit's actions are described as using a semantic field of force and control, emphasizing that confronting one's past is often an uncomfortable but necessary process.
Wow. We'll do that one too?
That's the same one.
Is it really? What did I do? Okay, so that's another one. Now here is another adaptation. This one is, again, Charles Dickens is describing to his illustrator how he sees it. And in this case, it looks like almost a tiny little girl with the light coming out of the head and the long hair, because in the way Dickens describes it, changing back and forth is showing youth to old, and I think the face is morphing, and not only the face, but the rest of them too. So they'll be small and almost like Alice in Eat Me, Drink Me, up and down, get bigger and smaller and stuff like that, fading in and out. So very interesting. There's all three of them. And again, Marley's not here. Everybody forgets Marley. But these are the three spirits that visit him in the night. And the adaptation here, again, is like a young girl. So, again, a lot of people, when they're reading the way that Charles is describing this character, seems to be a lot of room for, adding your own in here. Now, this is a different kind of ghost, Steve.
Yep.
This is the ghost, often called the Ghost of Christmas Future. It is in the novel, The Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come.
Yep.
And of course, we know that to Scrooge, this is the one he feared the most because he said so. I think I fear you the most out of all the spirits. And it's really something else. You want to read this one?
Sure. The Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come. The ghost is the last of the three spirits that appear to miser Ebenezer Scrooge to offer him a chance of redemption, foretold by the ghost of his deceased business partner, Jacob Marley.
And you see it here in the illustration, how Scrooge, Dickens has described this to the illustrator as Scrooge is absolutely terrified of this ghost. And I think at this point, he has been driven through the night. It seems like, of course, each one takes an hour, right? So every time the clock strikes a new hour.
When the bell rings again, then the next one. And I think it's just a little less than an hour because he's getting over it, and then he hears the bell again, and he thinks, here comes another one.
Mm-hmm. And this one comes, so it turns out it's on the witching hour, they said. So I think that's very interesting that everything leaning towards this one it starts getting very dark. So as we started out with Jacob Marley, of course, coming in frightfully so as the door knocker, morphing into his face and working all up to that first visit. Then he's got the Ghost of Christmas Past who comes in with all this light, shining the light on everything. The Ghost of Christmas Present, like this is what you're involved in right now, and you're missing all this. You're not seeing what's going on. Your nephew is having Christmas parties and making there's a couple of jokes at your expense, but they're all happy, and you could have been a part of this. They were invited you, and you turned it down, and blah blah blah, that kind of thing. And then he goes to the Cratchits and sees all the love and Tiny Tim, and he hears about that, from the Ghost of Christmas Present. The young boy, what will become of him? And then the Ghost from Christmas Past says, I see in the future a cane by the fireplace, and sadness throughout the home. So he's basically telling him, without help, Tiny Tim's not going to make it. So he's really got work, is working up to this. And I think at that point it really hit him. You could see parts throughout where Scrooge is really getting those gut punches. He's getting those heart pangs, and his armor's falling off Steve, little by little by little. And I think that also represents us when we cross over, that a lot of that stuff comes off. So that's why I keep telling you, if we can let go of some of it now, empty our big pockets now of all those heavy rocks we've been gathering up, that it's going to be easier, if that makes any sense. And I think that Scrooge is doing that all in one night. So yeah, this ghost here. Now this is really small, so I can grab this one if you like. It is introduced as an ominous and silent figure, a solemn phantom draped and hooded, coming like a mist along the ground towards him. Scrooge feared the silent shape so much that his legs trembled beneath him, and he found that he could hardly stand when he prepared to follow it. When it came near him, Scrooge bent down upon his knee. For the very air through which the spirit moved, it seemed to scatter gloom and misery. It was shrouded in deep black garment which concealed its head, its face, its form, and left nothing of it visible, save one outstretched hand, that one finger comes up points. But for this it would have been difficult to detach its figure from the night and separate it from the darkness by which it was surrounded. Charles Dickens. So to me, Steve, this sounds very, very much like that shadow figure, that reaper, that whole thing. It makes you wonder where Charles was coming from in this, because yet again, this figure shows me that he had quite a hand in the supernatural and the understanding of all this. And it's not just death, it's so many things mixed into one. The way he's describing that darkness, that's so dark. I mean, how many times have you and I heard stories? It was blacker than black, so black light didn't reflect off of it, just absorbed the light. And also the feeling of it coming, the feeling of the impending doom coming towards you, almost like on the wind. We feel that when evil is coming towards, when something ominous is coming. I just think it's, of course, I'm looking through the eyes of what we're always into, so I'm going to pick this out where somebody else will look at it and see something totally different. But to me, this is it. I'm just astonished that Dickens knew so much about the supernatural and the paranormal. I guess he had a lot of time to read, Steve.
Yeah.
Can you see that one, sweetie?
Yeah, sure
It's
can.
one of the last ones. Go ahead.
The Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come shows the death of Ebenezer. Scrooge understands that after his death, nobody will remember him with a good word, because during his life, he was a bad person. When Tiny Tim also died, this became a real tragedy for the whole family. His relatives will remember him all his life, and after the death of the Scrooge, the maid will take his clothes and nothing more. Scrooge was alive physically, but dead morally. But after rethinking the values, he revived his once living soul and began to do good deeds before he was alien to him. And the fact that this happens on the eve of Christmas and New Year is doubly symbolic, since these holidays symbolize renewal and the birth of a new one.
Isn't that something? It's just, it makes you really think about the whole thing. And I love the phrase of Scrooge was alive physically, but dead morally.
Yeah.
And I think about people that over these past couple of years have kind of shuttered themselves away and, maybe gone off and, by themselves. And I think it's very important to remind light workers, stay creative. Anything you're doing creative, you're rebuilding, you're painting, you're crafting, you're writing, whatever creativity it may be, working on cars, I don't care what it is. Stay active and also stay connected to nature, because those things will keep you absolutely, even if you were by yourself on an island, you could keep so alive and not get yourself into this morally removed from everything. You can be removed from people and, crowds and stuff like that, but don't forget to connect back into what's important, nature and things like that. You'll be fine because it rejuvenates you. And I think that's why a lot of us feel so good in nature, Steve. Like, we want to go camping. We want to go to the woods and the waterfalls and the rivers and the lakes and the mountains, because it just rejuvenates us. It's
Well,
almost
there's a
like we're
good real
lost in the crowd.
catharsis when getting back to nature.
So what, hon?
It's a real catharsis to get back to nature.
Hmm. Hmm. Absolutely. And it rejuvenates us so quick, and that's an important thing to remember because I hear an awful lot, especially from people that, after the past couple of years and stuff like that, they've separated. You hear a lot during Thanksgiving, everybody's worried about getting with the family or to say, we're not even talking anymore, so I don't have to worry about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, I just want you to not get too by yourself. Listen, I went and visited some people today. I started telling you this beginning, but it just meant so much to be able to do this. I got so much joy out of it. My uh, boss somehow wound up with too many daggone poinsettias. God bless her. We were trying to think of places to take them, and we were all coming up with ideas. And I said, look, I've got people up and down my block because this one lady came by and told me everybody's business. So I know what's going on. Otherwise, I was too busy to really know because it's winter and you're not outside going, hey, how you doing when you're raking leaves and stuff. It's one of those kind of neighborhoods. So she tells me all this stuff, and I'm like, okay, that's it, man. I wish I was more financially better to be able to help people and do something. Or, nowadays you don't even want to bake people cookies unless they really know you because with all the stuff you know what I mean. Some guys going around Walmart spraying bananas with poison. For the love of God, people are
Yeah, I
nervous.
saw that video. That is crazy.
People are nervous. So, and I don't want to make people give them more anxiety. I want to relieve them from it. So anyway, I got this opportunity. And I told her, look, I know some people that this would make their daggone day. Just brighten it right on up. I said, if you want me to do it, I'll make sure they get where they need to go. So I took about 5 or 6 of them. And I put on my Santa hat. My son and I, we went around and knocked on the door. Merry Christmas. I mean, big, huge. These things were like $100-something at my shop. I kid you not. These were gorgeous. And just Merry Christmas. And hugs and tears and just their faces lit up. And, it was just the most amazing thing, and I got to do that. I got to do that today. And the last one was extremely touching and just, God love them, So it doesn't take much. And if you put yourself out there and you say, man, give me an opportunity. I want to be able to do this. I swear, Steve, I felt like just for a brief moment, that Twilight Zone I got to show you over on Rumble last night, the Night of the Meek.
Yeah.
So I felt like, old Art Carney handing out baseball bats and little dolls that, that what do they used to do? They used to wet themselves, I think, didn't they?
I think so.
That was a big thing. You put the water in and it comes out. We just went, whoa, isn't that wonderful? But anyway. So here's the last one. I will honor Christmas in my heart and try to keep it all the year. I will live in the past, the present, and the future. The spirits of all three shall strive within me. I will not shut out the lessons that they teach. Oh, tell me I may sponge away the writing on this stone. One of the most powerful scenes in writing or in illustration or in film is this moment where he points and he shows them that, the bed curtains are, you mean to tell me you took down his bed curtains with him sitting lying there and he wasn't using them? And it was just this butt of this joke. But he had created this. He had made this cold, circle around him that just very much like the ghost of Christmas yet to come, they could feel his anger and his meanness and I wouldn't say he was evil. He was just cold. He was almost the opposite of the Ghost of Christmas Past, where he had his light had been put out slowly over time, and he got it lit up under him in this moment right here, and very profound. I think for everybody who sees that, where he just stands there and points and looks at that, and that's where he starts to lose that. And he starts to understand it. It all comes in this big crescendo of, I will keep all the spirits and what they have taught me. And they will live within me. And it's an amazing thing. It's the last one, Steve. You want to hit it?
Yeah. The last of the spirits gives Scrooge a final chance at redemption. to start life anew and to make reparation to his nephew Fred, to the Cratchits, and the poor of London, his fellow passengers to the grave. His redemption complete, Scrooge will live in the past, the present, and the future.
There it is. There it is. So interesting as that is, I chose those ghosts out of every. I didn't want to miss the guy in the middle because there's so much to unpack there. Maybe next year we'll focus on the ghost of Christmas present and presents. You know what I mean? We worked it out somehow there, and it's so important because with him, he's also showing what mankind happens to mankind if you just let them go. And the kids that are under the robe. That's another profound scene in the whole story, because here is want and need and greed, and just this is what man has wrought. And I think we're seeing an awful lot of that now. We're seeing a lot of fear come thrown at us. I think Steve and I are going to do another video on all this like latest wackadoo stuff with the drones and the plasma balls and all this other, the orbs and stuff. So coming up. But here's the deal. Don't you let them. To let them put your light out. Nobody puts a cap on a light worker, because we're going to shine right through it. And understand the lesson that was taught by all four ghosts. And it's not too late. We got Christmas coming. So if you want to make that call and you want to, maybe swallow that pride or say that thing or say, hey, find a way that if you don't want to engage with the person, but you want to let them know, send them a card, send them, whatever, find a way, put something on their doorstep and don't even say who it's from. Just know that you did something random for Christmas and Christmas spirit and the Christmas spirits that taught such a great lesson in this wonderful novel by Charles Dickens. So go out and watch a version of it, read the book, read it to your kids or your grandkids, and definitely watch The Man Who Invented Christmas, because once this book was put out, I believe we said it in the last episode, this is what kick-started Christmas for everybody, because for 25 years, Christmas wasn't even brought up. When I saw a documentary, Steve, this is very interesting, and I think this documentary was probably where they got the idea to do the movie, The Man Who Invented Christmas, because it's very good. It is on YouTube, and I will try to remember to put the link in this description after the show. But you can find it on YouTube, and I think it's on Plex. But it's a documentary on Charles Dickens and how he wrote The Christmas Carol and what happened around that. And he actually had a copy of the Times. I forget. Let's just say the London Times. It was a Herald or something along those lines. From that date, Christmas, the year that Christmas Carol, right before it came out, not a word of Christmas was mentioned in that newspaper. So imagine that's how much it had been forgotten. People stopped celebrating it. And they certainly were forgetting the traditions. This book brought everything back and put a focus on charity and remembering the poor and the less fortunate, as well as many of the injustices and things that are going on, and trying to remind people not to be like Scrooge and wind up like Marley. And I think it's a wonderful thing. It's absolutely great for the paranormal. It's a study in the paranormal, Steve. Did you hear me, sweetie? Don't tell me I've been on mute this whole time.
No, I didn't.
We're good? What's
Yeah.
going on in here in the chat? You were reading the chat?
Yeah, that's what I was doing.
Oh, you drove to town with us. Marie took us to town. Great. Where are we at? Are we getting ice cream? Tell me we're getting ice cream. I'll take a chocolate cone with chocolate sprinkles. Pretty please and thank you. I'll buy you a coffee. See what else we got going on. Everybody got snow? Who's got a white Christmas? I don't. We had snow the other
Probably.
day.
We got about 2 or 3 inches, and they're more
Do
on
you
the way
really?
tomorrow, I think. So,
Oh. Did Holden get to see it out the window? Did you watch it snow?
yeah,
You get to
I'm
see it?
watching it snow.
Wait till he gets to make his first snowball.
Yeah.
Or make his first snow angel. That'll be great. Oh my goodness. Oh, we were in the flannel shirt pocket. We were nice and warm. Oh, how nice. How cool is that? I love going places when I don't have to get up and leave. That's wonderful. You got chicken at Hardee's? They have good chicken at Hardee's? I don't think I've ever had Hardee's chicken. Are you really in northern Florida? Really? Wow. All right, you guys, listen. What we're going to try to do, Steve's got, tell it again, Steve. You've got it 6 o'clock tomorrow? Tomorrow's Christmas Eve.
Tomorrow night, Christmas
Got to
Eve,
work
6
tomorrow.
p.m. Eastern, and do a live Christmas Eve stream
We're probably
over
going
on
to cut this a
Missing
little.
Persons Mysteries.
I apologize, guys. I'm probably going to cut it a little short tonight because I got to get to sleep. I got to get to work early
Yeah,
tomorrow.
you look like you're beat there,
I'm
Cisco.
tired, baby. I'm tired. I'm just really, really glad that people are happy this year. They're coming in, getting the flowers. They're, maybe they would get to give away some more poinsettias tomorrow. So that would be cool because our store is filled with, absolutely filled with, so it's just, she's handling it well because they're not cheap. But I think it's great, So if you get a chance to do something like that, please do. And get over there and listen to Steve. If anybody's got shows coming on for tomorrow, I would love it if we could run a show. Maybe I can tomorrow I'm not going anywhere tomorrow night, but whenever I get home from work, I'm going to try to put something up, run a couple of Christmas movies. I'm going to try to do that through most of Christmas Day. I'm going to see how much I can put over on Rumble. I want to be in the chat with you guys if I can. I got to wrap some presents, and I'm going with my sons on Christmas afternoon. So I know, Steve, sometimes you do that too. You'll run a live stream or play some stories and stuff like that. Would you like to tell us the Christmas feather on the way out? Do you have a
Yeah,
recording of that we
sure.
can put up?
I don't have a recording of it, but I've got my book here, so I can do it that way.
Would you like to? Because I'd like to hear that story. I love
Yeah.
the story because it's magical. There's so many meanings to it. There it is in My Strange World. And I want you guys, if you get any messages this Christmas, I've been getting, I don't know how many times there were. I think I stopped counting at 5. I got 11, 11, 11. And I acknowledged it every time. So like I tell you guys, when you acknowledge it, out loud or in your head, whatever, in your heart, they know you're paying attention, so it happens more. Whether it's cardinals or a gossamer feather or, a phone ring or a bell ringing or something like that, don't discount it. Take it, keep it, claim it for your own, because I think you're going to get more and more because a lot of light workers are getting those lately. And I think it's fantastic, but it's because of the times. It's also because of the time. Steve, anytime you're ready, love, I'd love to hear it.
This is from My Strange World. My second book's available on Amazon, and whoever fine books are sold, as my publisher likes me to say. And it's available on Kindle also. Chapter 16, it's called The Christmas Feather, and parentheticals here. The odd thing about this tale, it is not an entirely unique experience. In researching stories and reports for the volumes of Strange Things in the Woods, I came across another story eerily almost identical to my own personal experience. The other person's experience didn't happen outside, so it didn't make it into that book. Instead, I talk about it here along with my personal experience. When I was a child, our house in Solway had 2 living rooms. What we actually used as a living room had at one time been intended to be a dining room, but we instead ate at a small table in a nook off the kitchen. The room on the front of the house, actually intended to be a living room, was referred to by my parents, my mother in particular, as the good living room. This meant that I was allowed to play, watch television, whatever, in the living room, but the good living room was off limits. Forbidden, verboten, no entry. This was reserved for entertaining, or, in the southern vernacular, when we had company coming over. The only times when visitors weren't being entertained that it was permissible to be in the good living room was when I was doing homework and around the holiday season. The lighting was very good, which was why homework was okay to do in there. In regard to the holidays, the large picture windows across the front of the house facing the street were in that room, and as such, it was where we always placed our Christmas tree for maximum viewing pleasure from people outside. During such time as the room was decorated for Christmas, I liked to go and sit in the dark, the only light coming from the heavily decorated tree and accompanying windows. This was completely okay with my mother, as long as I didn't make a mess or put my feet on any of the furniture. excuse me, sounded like a deal to me, and I spent many a winter's evening in the good living room, dreaming about what I might get in the way of Christmas presents. Life sure was good to be a kid in the early 1970s, at least for this kid. The first time I noticed the anomaly I came to refer to as the Christmas feather, I was probably about 3 or 4 years old. I can remember being in the good living room admiring the tree. My mother always insisted that we go all out for Christmas. We always had a giant tree that, resplendent with a lighted star topper, almost brushed the 10-foot ceiling. Had in yards of garland, hundreds of winking colored lights, dozens of blown glass hand-painted ornaments, and dripping with bow icicles, and you get the idea of what the tree looked like. It was beautiful and a wonderful sight to behold as a small child. It was not only a thing of beauty, but of magic and the joy that the season brought. So, while lying on the couch enjoying the holiday spectacle of the tree and an Andy Williams or Percy Faith or Perry Como Christmas album on the console stereo, I was basking in the glow of the seasonal magic. At one point, I happened to roll over on my back on the couch so that I could watch the reflections of the lights on the tree twinkle on the ceiling high above my head. Suddenly, I saw something hovering in my peripheral vision, just above me on the couch. I sat straight up and looked directly overhead, trying to get a better look. Excuse me. There above me was a lone gossamer feather, perhaps 2 inches long, pure white and very fragile and translucent. It didn't look at all like the robin or occasional crow feathers that I sometimes found in the yard. Now, I didn't know it at that time, but later in life I was able to verify that it was similar in appearance to goose down. Although we never owned any Sorry, I'm spoiling the story. Got a tickle in my throat. We never owned any down comforters or pillows or jackets or anything filled with feathers, due in part to my childhood allergies and also in part due to my mom's germophobia. When I did find those aforementioned robin or crow feathers, I was forbidden from bringing them into the house. I would also receive a rather stern lecture about how birds carry disease and there were such things as bird mites and the feathers were undoubtedly crawling with them and I should go wash my hands immediately. I watched this mysterious feather as it turned languid spirals in the air and seemed to float at random throughout the room. I would sometimes lose sight of it. The ceiling was painted brilliant white as well, only to observe it pop up later in another corner of the room. I would also like to take the opportunity to state that we had no furnace, no central air, and no fireplaces. Again, due to my allergies, I was particularly allergic to dust. When my father had commissioned a house built, when I was 6 months old, he had insisted on the fairly modern concept at that time in the early 60s of ceiling heat, which worked via heated strips laid in the very sheetrock of the ceiling. While not very efficient, since heat moves upward by natural and physical law, it didn't cause any problems with my allergies. Also, being installed in the ceiling, it didn't create any updrafts associated with furnace or forced air heaters, and therefore was not what was keeping my mystery feather aloft. I can remember watching the feather for what seemed like hours. I was mesmerized by the aerial maneuvers. Sorry. And the way it would do things like circle the Christmas tree, as if it either possessed a mind of its own or was controlled by an unseen hand. I kept the feather as my own personal secret, lest my mother discover its existence and do away with it. Although there were many times we were all in the good living room, including not only my parents but my brother's wife and child when they came to visit, I never observed the feather unless I was the only one in the room. There were a few instances where I boldly tried to catch the feather. I say boldly because it took a certain amount of boldness to climb on the back of the couch or the assorted overstuffed high-back chairs to try and grab the feather, which seemed to always stay in the 8 to 10 foot range out of my reach. My mother would have had at least banned me from the good living room and at worst applied a hand swiftly to my backside as she witnessed such a transgression. The oddest thing about the feather was that I only saw it around the holidays. Any other time when I was in the good living room, studying, for example, the feather was nowhere to be found, no matter how long and hard I watched the ceiling waiting for it to appear. However, sometime after Thanksgiving, as soon as their decorations began to go up, the feather would return. I saw it during its early occurrence for several years, But oddly enough, the feather seemed to have disappeared for good about the time I turned 10 or 11. In other words, as soon as I was big enough to have actually captured it. Flash forward about 40 years later. I've never forgotten about the feather and the mystery and awe I experienced, but I'm sure it was resting comfortably in the back of my mind. It was just not the sort of thing I would sit and think about constantly by any means. But while collecting stories for my book, Strange Things in the Woods, I'd spoken with a gentleman about my age who had some unusual outdoor stories he wanted to tell. I recorded the stories and thanked him. As a matter of habit, asked him if he had any other unusual experiences. There is one, he intoned solemnly, but it didn't happen in the woods, so I'm not sure you'd want to hear it. I explained that even though it wouldn't fit within the scope of this book, I'd still love to hear any tale he wished to tell me. He began relating a story about a Christmas feather. And a feather is what you could have knocked me over with, as the story came pouring out, so similar to my own experience that it was frightening. As he finished the story, he began to choke up a bit. He closed by stating that he believed with all his heart that the feather he encountered was the spirit of his deceased grandfather coming to wish him a happy holiday. He even claimed that his grandfather had told him as a child that when he passed, he would come back to him as a feather. I thanked the man for his story, gathered my things, and left. It was such a tender moment that there was no way I could blurt out, "Yeah, that happened to me too," without a feeling of cheapening the moment when the man, literally a stranger to me, had shared such a personal part of his childhood. Although I had no idea how he felt about the afterlife or feathers, my maternal grandfather passed away right after the holidays when I was just a few months old. Could it be? I've often asked myself after hearing the man's story. I can't say for sure, but I'm not one to rule anything out. Anybody ever had a similar encounter with a feather?
That wonderful, Steve. And I love the fact that you got it
Sorry.
validated and you couldn't say anything
Yeah,
because I agree with
yeah,
you.
but
You
you
could
tell
almost,
you that, just
yeah,
I
happened to
was
me too.
tearing up. And like, yeah, yeah, that happened to me too. I used to see a Christmas feather all the time.
You did the
I
right
wasn't going to do that.
did the right thing because that right there and the fact that that moment, like your granny said to you about that one where you saw that, I think you saw a boy or you felt like a boy got killed or something, and she told
Yeah,
you
that
that
spot on the
this is
highway
for
where the
you.
kid got ran over years and years before.
Right. And she said that sometimes it's just for you. Sometimes what you did, multiple things happen at one time. It was great for that guy to have somebody to listen and to be able to retell the story and feel it again. And maybe in that time he was really believing it too, even more so than the moment. And you got a validation, and he's saying it's your grandfather, and you had already thought it was yours. Is almost like something came by to tell you that you were absolutely right. I love it when that happens in life. And those
Yeah.
are the things, guys, that we do this show for, because again, we'll talk about the really scary stuff, but this stuff is so important because this is knowing these things, and being a light worker is how you know that you can beat the dark stuff. And I don't understand how everybody can just keep going in the dark stuff and stay in there without paying any attention to this. Because let me tell you something, when they get in it and they get in over their head, they seek the light and they seek us. And we need the strength to go in there and help these people back out of their crazy choices. You know what I mean? And sometimes they don't choose and they wind up in it, and this is an ongoing thing. It's been going on a long time. I love you, Steve. Merry Christmas. I'll
Love you
see you over
too.
there on
Merry
your
Christmas.
channel. Be
I'll,
thinking
I'll
about
see
me
y'all
tomorrow.
tomorrow
Instead of
night, 6
yeah.
p.m. Eastern, for a special Christmas
Now
Eve.
this is on 13.
No, Missing Persons Mysteries.
Okay. Okay, and over on Rumble, I'll tell you what we're going to do. Like I said, I've got some things I got to do, but while I'm here and when I can, what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw up movies, and I want you guys to be thinking about this. Now, I can only do this on the Rumble channel, because on Rumble, I can show movies. I'm going to look for Gremlins. I'm going to look for a couple of other ones. I'd love to do that one that happened on Fifth Avenue. Is that the name of that? You know which one I'm talking about? It's so good, where the guy with the dog that moves into the mansion. Oh, gosh, it's fabulous. It's funny. I want to do stuff that's funny. So, Gremlins. And I want you to be thinking about your favorite Christmas songs or regular songs. Listen, we can play songs over there. I watch a couple of shows on Saturday where we just try to break it all up. And over on Rumble, you can do that. So you can pick songs and put them in the chat, and we'll look for them, and we can play those, and you can share stuff, and tell us why you like that. We'll try to do all kind of different things like that in between the movies, and we'll stay together, and we'll have an all day. We can run it all day over there if you want. And I want my moderators. If you can be here, that'd be great. If not, I'll give some other people to mod so we can keep the chat nice and cool, because we're gonna get a lot of new people over there that we're going to welcome in, because they might not have anybody to hang out with. A lot of people on Rumble are gamers or current news and things like that. A lot of really good independent journalists over there. Better news on there that I guarantee you're getting on mainstream media. So let's try to do that. Keep that in mind. If you have any other ideas you want to throw in there, but you got to do it on the Rumble. It will not be on YouTube, and it won't be on Facebook. Just be over there. And I love you. Love to have you over there. If you're in there now, we got 20 people over on Rumble watching right now. If you're not in the chat, jump in the chat. Get to know these people. These are good people. And if you're interested in this subject, they know a lot about it. So you're in good company, and you're welcome here. Bacon is love. So throw up the bacon. Throw up the Christmas trees. Put out the holly, because here Christmas is coming, whether you like it or not. And we're going to be here to try to keep that Christmas spirit up. And it'll be good for me too, because I'm going to be exhausted. I love you all. Thanks, Steve, so much. My love to Holden and Nick, and your first Christmas together. I think it's wonderful, and I couldn't be happier for you, my friend. Merry Christmas, sweetheart.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
We're on the way out of here. Let's dance it on out. What do you think? Good night, everybody. Thanks for being here. I love you. Be good humans. And thank you, D-Rock, for paying attention. That means the world to me. Thank you guys so much. I love you all. Hope to see you over on the Rumble channel tomorrow. Bye, everybody. Kick your shoes off. Dance in your kitchen while you make cookies. Don't run the